Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division 2 video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you a 4 versus 4 on Kostritsa. This is the new map that was added in Reinforcement Pack 12, which is free for everyone. And I'm also going to be playing Task Force Butler in this one, which is one of 2 new divisions available in the Lucky 13 DLC, which is also free. So lots of new content for Steel Division, which is free at the moment, which is really cool. So definitely make sure to check it out. But either way, going to be showing this off today because of the new map, because of the new division, and the game was set up so that it was a tactical game. What I mean by that is everybody only had 250 points to start, which is the lowest amount that you can get, and half their income as well, which I think is also the lowest setting that you can set. So the idea being that because we're playing on a smaller map with more people, we're making it so that each player has less each. And ideally you want to play together or like kind of complement each other's forces, or you can kind of just like keep playing lanes, but the lanes are a lot smaller. So that's kind of what we're doing here. On the left, Crow's going to be using the 3rd Guards Tank Corps, and then Sturm on my left is going to be using the 3rd US Armoured, and on my right I've got Fmol with also Task Force Butler. So at the start of the game, I've got 2 engineers. These are going to be going for the heavy cover on this right hand side. I've got 3 rifles late, which are going to be spreading themselves out amongst these buildings with a leader to give them extra veterancy. All my rifles late in this deck do come in with the 1-star veterancy, so they're going to be 2-star veterancy once my leader unloads, which is actually really, really good. I've also got this M10. The idea of the M10 was to come up here and get into a position to be able to shoot up the road. Now there's actually a really nice building here that I identified during this game where you can definitely put something in the back garden and have a decent line of sight up the road whilst keeping whatever's there hidden quite well. So this is a really nice building to definitely pay attention to if you're playing this map. The map is an interesting one for sure. You've got this right side where the flags are kind of set back, further back on the right side, with all this forest in between. So this causes like a lot of infantry fighting and a lot of close range engagements. In the middle it's a very standard sort of town engagement, and then on the left you've got this big open ground, which certainly favours larger armoured skirmishes. But as soon as you get to either side of this large open ground, you do have to deal with more close range engagements. So the dynamic of this map is really interesting. So Forrest is going to be bringing out a Focke-Wulf 189 at the start to provide some recon onto the area. He has spotted the M1 gun there, so he's going to be taking that out with the 4 50-kilogram bombs. Forrest is in fact playing the Panzer Division Tatra, which is the other new division available in the Lucky 13 DLC that's just come out. So yeah, making use of that recon aircraft, and those 50-kilogram bombs can be really good because they do pay themselves off quite well. That AT gun I believe is 50 points. And the Focke-Wulf here is 65 points. So not only is it providing lots of recon on everything at the front line, it's also managed to get itself a quick kill there at the start to pay itself off. So that's really nice. Crow's been pushing up on that side. Mine's pretty chill in the middle here at the moment, but I'm going to be going after Sturmschützen at close range. Sturmschützen, if they can fire, are pretty good with their MP44s, but because I've got the extra veterancy there, and your boy Mike doesn't have any veterancy, my rifles late have a much superior advantage, and with the double machine guns on both of the units with these BARs, I'm able to do a lot of damage and pin them down. But with the half-track coming up on the right hand side, I'm not really able to continue that engagement without taking unnecessary suppression and damage, so I do actually fall back for the time being, and I'm just still shifting these engineers up into position. Meanwhile Fmol's trying to get his way through the tree line on the right hand side to start maybe putting some pressure onto these flags. I do bring in an M15 CGMC. These are very important to have in Task Force Butler. The AA is very limited in this deck, but having these in Phase A is super important for, well, these cases where you don't want enemy aircraft to be able to just fly about. If you don't have any AA in Phase A or B, you're going to just be screwed because an enemy fighter can just constantly strafe you. Of course you could technically bring in your own fighters to try and take them down, but that is a lot more risky and doesn't always work. So the DIO 217 coming in, These are really nice strafing aircraft, but they have a very large turning circle. So I think that was originally targeted at something. It lost its target, ended up having to fly all the way around, and you can see that that's taken quite a lot of damage in the meantime. Mortar fire coming in, hitting my rifle leader pretty hard here. But the rifle's late, still putting some pain onto the Sturmschützen, forcing them back. Now going to be bumping into Begleit Pioneers, which are pretty damn scary because they come at 2 base vet, whilst also having the MP44s and an MG42. Now, in order to stop this half-track from being a problem for me, I'm going to move up the M10 just to kill that off. And then I can use my rifles a lot easier there on that side. Also going to be bringing up an M8 to provide my own armoured support at close range. In order to help pin those so that my rifles can continue their engagement. Brought up another rifle late in the meantime. Over on the right hand side, Fmol starting to bump into some of Homer's infantry here, the Pianelli and the Flammenwerfer. Homer using the 122nd Infantry there. Over here, I believe it was the Hetzer that got taken out. I'm not entirely sure what by. I believe it might have been the mortar carriers that took it out. One of them does get strafed quite a bit. HS-129B3 going to be forced back by the AA. We have managed to get quite a lot of AA out now. I think myself and Crow both bought the 37s in. On a smaller map like this, aircraft are certainly a lot harder to deal with. Now this M8, the idea was to sort of fast move it up the road, take a right, go up here through the middle of this field, and find the mortar that was placed quite far forwards in the town. But unfortunately I bumped into the Schützen at close range, and they lobbed their Haftaladen and killed the M8. Now my rifle's here getting caught out. I tried to go across the open. Your boy actually times that very well, comes back forwards, gets a lot of damage onto the rifles as they're out in the open. And even with 2-star veterancy, it's not going to stop them from taking loads and loads of damage from MP44s. So he's going to try and make a counter push, having sliced up my unit there. Thankfully I do have the rifles late on the right hand side. They do have 500 meter range with the M1 Garands, plus the 2 BARs, so you can see we killed off the Sturmschützen and did lots and lots of damage to the Begleits, which was really, really good. Also got supporting mortar fire coming in here from Sturmsource, so that's very nice as well. That's going to allow us to deal with the first unit of Begleit Pioneers. Now when you are facing up against a division that has Begleit Pioneers like the 78 Sturm or maybe even the Fallschirmpanzer Göttingen, you do want to kind of keep count of them, because there's only 3 available generally. Like if people bring them in phase A at least, you can only bring in 3 of them, and therefore like paying attention to when you kill off a squad is quite good, because then you know you're not going to have to bump into them again, and you're going to have a lot more presence at close range than you previously had. So that mortar firing off in the open here on the right hand side is going to make me want to try this again. So I can see the Schützen here. So what I'm going to do, we're going to fast move. This time I'm going to go a bit shorter, and we're going to just try and cut across here and get away from the AT. But alas, there's another infantry squad now. Sturmschützen get the shot off there. Managed to just about run away with my rifles late here. Very, very close to having them surrendered, but thankfully just about got away with it. M10's currently just blasting that Schützen, but not doing too much damage. M10s aren't really the best to do that with. Mortar fire now being used on the left side there by Sturmsource. And I'm going to be bringing up a second CGMC in the meantime. You can see I'm actually placing this M15 CGMC a little bit further forwards. I'm giving them these reverse orders, and then like giving them stop orders, so that I can control how far they can be seen. So in this case, I've just got the CGMC in a position where it can shoot this tree line with its 37 and 50 cals. If anything shows up there, this one's just going to be staying further back for the time being. So just kind of consolidating, holding on. I've traded pretty well so far with my rifles late, with killing like Sturmschützen and the Begleits, because the rifles late, yeah, they're 30 points, but like Begleit Pioneers I think are 35, and Sturmschützen are also like 30 points, and I haven't actually lost my rifles. I think I lost 1 squad, but that's it so far. Mortar fire now coming in. I assumed he could see the M15 because of the way that the mortars coming in, and wow, would you look at that, it lands almost exactly where my M15 was. Not sure if that was intentionally fired at this area, but either way managed to dodge the shot there, which was good. And you know, if you don't succeed twice, why not try again? So here comes another M8 recon. The idea being to go and kill off those mortars again, because the mortars are quite frustrating. Artillery on a smaller map like this can be very, very strong, because you don't have much space to maneuver, or much ground to kind of hold. You can see it's got quite concentrated area in the middle where you're going to have to push. So artillery is very strong because of that. And it's the same reason that aircraft aren't really strong in 1v1s or on 1v1 maps, because you have less airspace, which means the AA, it's easier to cover off. Another M10 on the way. Going to be accompanying the first one in basically covering this road, whilst this one's kind of like helping out on the right hand side here. And my plan with the M8 this time around was to go through the right hand side here, because we saw the Sturmschützen here. Technically they could jump and maybe get Panzerfaust into the side of the M8, but I was kind of hoping that that wouldn't be the case. This M8's just going to zoom up the road a little bit, and then I'm just going to manually move it towards the enemy mortar back here and hope that there's no AT gun or anything in my way. Because I've seen this 120 starting to move forwards, which is why I was quite confident to go for it. So here we go, 50 cal, getting on target there. I'm going to pin down the 120. I'm just going to have to hammer it to death. There's no way I can surrender it because I haven't pushed the front line over it. So I'm just going to have to just keep shooting it until it dies. Brought in some cavalry scouts. These were to get some recon that could look up the road here, because whilst this recon is in a really good space here, it's blocked by this tree line. You see the line of sight is a bit dodge. So I'm planning to put one here so that I can see a bit further up the road, so that I can make good use of my M10s. So my M8 does a good job there. It manages to take out the mortar. A couple of units here unload. That is in fact an IG-18. So I'm going to just move out of the way of that, because I don't want the first shot of the IG-18 with its heat to just straight up kill my M8. I want to try and go for the second mortar here, because there's actually two of them. So as you can see, I'm kind of like hunting to try and find the kill. I'm going to just be moving up there for the time being, but I'm going to see the Stug on the main road. Fortunately misses. We're going to pull off the road. I'm moving up through the buildings instead, but the Nashorn aim time on open top vehicles is pretty damn fast, especially AT, and they take it out. So that's unfortunate, but it did its job. The job that I was trying to do with the first two M8s that died before. But yeah, if you guys didn't know, open top AT vehicles, they actually have increased aim time, or decreased, sorry, aim time, I guess it would be, over normal AT units. So the Nashorn, they're able to aim very, very quickly indeed. Now bringing in the B-26G Marauder, the four 450 kilogram bombs coming in to take out this tree line, or at least pin down whatever's in there, and then I'm able to push forwards with the rifles afterwards to clean them out. At least that's the plan. The bombs come down. They look absolutely awesome. I love these bombs. The concentration of these bombs is really, really nice, and just like the payload is really good. So they not only do a lot of damage, but they get a lot of suppression down, and I'm able to move on into this tree line and try and get some pressure on this map. Because at the moment, you know, things have stayed relatively even. It's 12 to 12. But we have, in my opinion, been trading better. So I've been able to kind of cut down quite a lot of forces. Like here, for example, he's losing these like 30-point Sturmschützen to my 30-point rifle slate, and not really getting much damage in return here. So he loses a lot of value on this unit. Going to be jumping into the big light pioneers here. Those rifles are just going to have to commit to killing them. And there we go. Rifles get blown up by the HE, but we take out that squad finally. So M15s engaging these DOs. One of the DOs did get successful in taking out the M21. Some recon either in this tree line or maybe further back here, would probably be spotting these. But we managed to shoot one down. I concentrate my fire on them one after the other. So shoot the first one, going to concentrate on the second one. These are pretty tanky boys though. They do have a lot of resilience. And well, managed to get presence over this flag as well. So we've got the M3A1 cavalry half-track here. These are really, really nice. So that's the one that dropped off the cavalry scouts. I'm now using it to support my infantry. And because they have that recon, they're able to spot sort of infantry when they get closer to the buildings. And then that allows my infantry to open up and start firing without having to leave cover. Because usually what I would do is sort of advance onto contact. So what I mean by that is, like, if I had like a bunch of Starkey that were low level, I would just kind of run forwards until they start shooting at me and reveal their positions, and then I can attack them with support weapons. But with the way that I'm playing here, it's kind of the other way around. I use my support vehicle to move up first, spot the unit, and then engage it with the infantry, because the infantry in this deck is quite valuable because you don't have like a large amount of it. Not compared to some other decks anyway, and especially the rifles late are quite valuable because of their extra veterancy. So there we go. Get another BF-109 G6 there with the 2 CGMCs. We're bringing in some supply. That's not only going to be resupplying the M15s, because this one's actually getting low on 37mm. It's also going to be able to reload the M10's APCR if we have to engage up the road, and also the 50 cal there. This rifle late does manage to take out the IG-18 for us. I've now spotted a couple of Sturmschützen coming down the road here. I'm just going to be hitting them as hard as I can. Bringing the M3A1 cavalry around even to get the 50 cal on target. Light pyres coming in though. Molotov does actually go down. And Mike, unfortunately, not having them on an attack move order really cost him a lot. If he'd had that on an attack move order and they'd stopped and fired at the Makassars while they were not in cover, my Makassars would have absolutely melted. But alas. New M3A1 half-track now arriving as I put some cavalry scouts in the church. The cavalry scouts in the church here are basically allowing me to permanently spot these Stugs and also the Nashorn. They're not going to do too much in helping me find infantry, but that doesn't matter too much as long as I've got the M3A1 half-tracks alive. I did lose an MG34 here. I was planning to kind of move that up and have it help me cover the town on the left side, but they got taken out pretty quickly. I got the Schützen there. The Makassars managed to get a Molotov onto them, so that was good. And we're continuing to do damage to this infantry on the right. IG-18 I do not want to have to deal with, so just kind of going around the building the other way around. And I'm just going to get them into the building here and just kind of house hop forwards. So another MG being brought in. That's to cover the open ground here on the right hand side. That Stokes obviously still a little bit of a problem. There's a little bit of a gap here, but I'm quite happy that if Mole continues his aggression on this right hand side, then it will stop Homer from getting into my flank on this side. Gotta love the uniforms of these. Even got the women in there. Going to be taking out that Pack 40 quite nicely. I do manage to find and kill off the other IG that was here, so that was good. And now we're currently sitting at the 14-10, so decent lead. Managed to push up in the centre here, getting good value out of my infantry all the way. It's really, really helped me out. Rallies at close range, struggling against Sturmpires. These rallies are one of the newer units for Steel Division 2. They're actually not new entirely, since they did exist in Steel Division WD-44. One of my half-tracks does go down there, and now the M10 is going to be engaging the Stug. So there's a little bit of a mistake on my part because I forgot that I turned off the APCR. So I was engaging the Stug 3 at a closer range than I needed to, and it allowed the Stug to get a shot off. Thankfully, the Stug didn't hit, so I kind of got away with it. But now I've just got to rely on my APCR shells hitting. And there we go. Last one gets the armor crack and gets the kill. And I'm able to resupply all those APCR shells immediately because I brought in the supply for my AA. Now I moved up these AA to this position because they are in fact under the leadership of this rifle leader, which gives them the extra veterancy. I've also got an M1 gun that I'm going to be sneaking through the back garden here and trying to engage the Stug 3 with further up. That is the plan. So currently just building up a bunch of mortars here. He's got 4 of them now. Bro still trying to push up on that left side. Mole manages to get control of this flag. So nice job there. Really helps us out because it kind of secures our right flank. Now I can see the mortars here. So I'm currently pushing my rifles late to try and get a little bit further towards those. M10 or something managed to kill the... Actually, I think it was my M5 gun, sorry. Managed to kill the upper blitz. Mortar fire takes out the 88. So Mike's having a little bit of a hard time here. The combination between the rifles late and the Makassars is actually ridiculous because the rifles late can use all of their weapons at super close range, right? They can fire the M1 Garand, the Thompson and the BARs at or within 100 meters, which is strong in its own. But if you, say, get the Makassar to throw its Molotov and unseat like a Sturmschützen from the building, you kill them very fast because not only are you still in heavy cover, they are not. And so you're taking barely any damage and they're taking lots of damage and probably on the move because of the burning ground underneath them. So yeah, you can get quite a lot of damage done with these rifles if you have them in the right spot. A couple Panzer III Ls going to be coming down the main road here. My M1 gun does manage to ambush them. Got the kill onto the first one, penetrate the second one. Managed to get the kill there. Wolf trying to get further up. My M15 is just going to be slamming them. Managed to get a couple new MG34s now. I believe in this deck you can get quite a lot of these MG34s. I think in B is like 12. They are really useful for projecting at longer ranges because they're 1,250 meter range. So basically what this one's going to do is stop any infantry from going left to right or right to left. And yeah, just do lots of damage if any units decide to go out in the open. Rallies do get onto the 81mm mortars back here. Whilst continuing to do a good job pushing out this right hand side, but we're slowly creeping forwards with our infantry, getting ever closer to this flag. And with my rifles late and Makassars engaging this Sturmschützen, I'm going to move my M3A1 half track to the right hand side here. Managed to take out that Stug. It's a good kill. The idea being with this half track is to provide 50 cal support onto the enemy infantry. And you see that we pin them down quite quickly with the help of the 50 cal, which allows the rifles late, even with only 4 men remaining, to get the jump on the Sturmschützen. Makassars slowly but surely taking out the upper blitz there. MG34 now going to help pin at a distance. Managed to get the surrender onto the Sturmschützen. We're now 17-7, slowly pushing through. Mole's managed to get some presence over this flag on the right side for the time being as well. So we're doing pretty well. Like the town push, infantry. My infantry has got so much value that Mike's really starting to struggle here. He has way less in quantity in terms of what we have. Because see these rifle late units. They've all got like 4 and 3, and I mean this one's like on his last man. But keeping them alive and getting a lot of value out of them is like super good. So in this case, like this rifle late, even though it's on low health, it not only helped take out the Sturmschützen here, it's also now engaging the Schützen at range, and because it doesn't have any suppression, this already suppressed Schützen that would normally absolutely demolish them at range are actually getting pinned down instead, with the help of the M10 and the MG34. So yeah, just lots of lovely value coming out there. I did bring in another bomber. We bombed the Werflammen here. Unfortunately, the enemy fighter came in and took it down, so wasn't really able to save the bomber, but killing the Werflammen's a big deal, especially if it's like the Tatra one, because they can't bring in another. You know, like the Panzer Division Tatra, the Panzerwerfer, and the Werflammen are both super important units that can do a lot of damage, but if you lose them, you can't replace them, because the availability only allows you to bring in one. But we have moved into Phase C now, so I'm going to be bringing in some of these FFI rallies. In my deck I have the Makassars in Phase B, and then we got the rallies in Phase C. And the idea being is that the rallies are just kind of sort of line infantry to cover off against like enemy infantry pushing onto them. They're not too good in an aggressive situation, but they can be used much like I was talking about Straki earlier, where you advance them onto contact because they are so cheap. So in this case, for example, I've got 2 rifles late here that I'd want to give some veterancy probably, but I can just run the rallies forwards, reveal where their infantry is, and then just like have my rifle lates kill the enemy infantry. The preservation of units, especially using veterancy, is like super important with Task Force Butler. That's basically what I'm going for here. M10, I'm going to be trying to engage the Tiger up here. Got the APCR firing away. I do have better rate of fire than the Tiger, but the Tiger's going to get the hit on me there. We're going to manage to get the bailout, so that was really good. Unfortunately, the last APCR shot actually bounces, which was quite unlucky. The percentage chance of the APCR shells on these M10s bouncing off a Tiger is actually like kind of low. Probably has about 80-90% penetration at that range. Anyway, more saboteurs coming in. These saboteurs I actually have in the late game as well, so I say more. I think this is for the first time I'm bringing in these FFI saboteurs. They are there quite simply to accompany the rallies in order to engage at close ranges. The M4A176 here. I'm going to be engaging the Stugs, doing quite a nice job of it as well. Managed to get 1 kill, the other one is forced to retreat. Basically my opponent was trying to use this back garden here in order to basically conceal the Stugs whilst engaging. I'm able to get some decent shots on here. You can see that 3-star veterancy with this rifle leader nearby. So managed to win the Stug engagements. Marauder gets saved by the AA. The F-109 actually going to go down. And meanwhile, the M1 gun's just quite happily plinking away at the Stug and the Tiger. M10 tries its luck, tries to get the shot downrange onto the Tiger. The Tiger, in fact, did get repaired. Like earlier I bailed it out, but the Opel Blitz from Forest did manage to save his own Tiger. And now my M1 gun's going to have to fall back as well because that's coming under too much fire. So a little bit of an unfortunate engagement there for me. Like the M10 should have really finished the job on the Tiger, but because it didn't, it got fixed up and then is now a little bit of a problem because I don't really have much to deal with it. I could of course swing over the M4A176 or the M10, but I kind of need these to maintain their cover on the right hand side of the town due to the Stugs. JU-188's coming in with their bombs. They're going to be bombing both parts of the town here. These are actually really good in this situation where you have like lots of buildings in a row, because those carpet bombers can pin down any infantry that are in the buildings, and then of course you can just surrender them all if you were to charge something forwards. And if he had done after those bombing strikes, then he would have got a decent kill. This narrow road Stug at the end does manage to kill the M4A176. So lost another piece of armor, and it's looking a little bit dry on armor, so I'm forced to bring in the M41A2, oh sorry, A176s. Got 2 more of those on the way. Currently, this flag's still being contested, and Vermol's still contesting this flag. This flag's actually really hard to get because obviously the opponent has a reinforcing point that goes all the way down here, like a reinforcing road. It's very easy for them to get to this position, whereas from this side of the map you have to go all the way up here and then round and down. So it's much more difficult. We managed to take out the Tiger there. The rallies, I think, were the ones that managed to jump forwards and get a Faustpatron shot into the front of the Tiger, so that was really, really good. Now, double M4A1 is going to be engaging the Stugs down the road, and we managed to take that out as well. If Mike had had some extra veterancy on these Stugs, they would have been really, really scary to deal with, because high veterancy Stugs have great rate of fire, and they're obviously much more accurate. So they're very, very good. When they have lower veterancy, they just get trumped massively by higher veterancy medium armor. So you've almost got to make sure you have that veterancy on those Stugs to make sure you're never really trumped by the medium armor, which is the thing you're trying to counter with them in the first place. But after the engagement with the Stug, still laying down a lot of shots onto these Schützen. I do have this one like FFI Saboteur just kind of sat in the road, and that was on purpose so that he could actually give me information on what was coming down the road for the M4A176s, because I didn't want another Stug to pop out of the buildings here whilst I was focusing on the infantry with the main guns. So yeah, that was kind of the plan with that FFI Saboteur, and so far so good. Managed to stay there. Trying to engage these Stugs on the right hand side with the M10. Don't manage to get a shot in. I believe it actually missed at close range, which was, yeah, another unfortunate miss. The FFI Saboteur is finally going to go down. My M4A176s are moving over to the right to help deal with these Stugs so we can maintain control over this flag. And then we're going to see the Marauder come in. That's going to bomb out this Stug. M1 gun manages to get the 222. So that was good. Goes down to the Sturmgrenadier. The SS Sturmgrenadier, very interesting unit. They have the 8 MP44s and 2 MG42s. Super, super strong. Obviously not normally 3-man squads. Usually they are 10-man squads. But that's going to try and like get towards my M4A1s. I don't have to be too worried about this Sturmgren, mainly because I don't have AT, so these M4A1s don't have to be too careful of that. But the reason I'm pulling them off over this way is so I can use the buildings to get into line of sight of this Stug on the right and shoot it from like cover. And what that means is you're always going to aim and fire before the enemy gets to fire back, which is obviously favourable. I brought in some off map. Going to be using that to try and collapse this front line here so that I can push for the further flags in the town. Because this is a 1v1 map, it's actually not that big, like front to back. So using this off map is one of the best ways to be able to push forwards, because if you try and push forwards slowly, try and get value for your engagements as you move forwards, the closer you get to the spawn, the harder it gets. So sometimes you just need a bit of oomph, and that's exactly what the off map here is for. Managed to take care of the Stug on the right hand side. Meanwhile, Mike's going to be pushing up quite aggressively here, getting the Sturmschützen very close, which is fine if there wasn't 2 tanks sitting there mowing them down and doing lots of damage. Also, the FFI Saboteurs managed to get the TNT into the middle of the blob, and not only do we take out 2 Sturmschützen, we take out 2 Schützen as well, and that is it. Job is done. So major victory after 32 minutes and 45 seconds. Focusing quite heavily on the middle of the map there, just making sure that the infantry had high veterancy and were trading effectively throughout the game. Same with my armor. And that's probably a good example of how I would say you have to play Task Force Butler, is like in a way where you can maximize veterancy. Now, on some divisions you don't have to do that, but for most divisions it is obviously valuable if you do. But I feel like Task Force Butler in particular is one division that almost forces you to, because of their generally low availability in both the infantry and armor. They do have some obviously late game tools. You do have the Long Tom and the Marauders for the late game, but they're there for just if the game goes a bit too long. So this was almost like the perfect time on the game. 32 minutes and 45 seconds for Task Force Butler. If you'd gone to like 40, 50 minutes, that's where you start to like get to the point where you're maybe struggling a little bit. And then, well, probably more like 50 minutes. And then past that, it's like, it gets pretty dire. But in the end, 2,503 kills to 1,050 losses. It was a fun little tactical game. The M10 did okay. We got some good bombing strikes in there as well. And my rifles late just really, really tore the enemy a new one. Like taking out the Schützen and the Sturmschützen with these rifles late, so good. And also the M4A176 with the 3-star veterancy. Really, really nice as well. The great thing about having extra veterancy on an M4 is that M4s actually have a faster aim time as well compared to other medium armor with turrets. So having extra veterancy and making sure you hit those first shots is like super important. So there you go. But yeah, that was a good game. Of course, it was a pretty quick one, but I will bring you guys more content from the new DLC. I'll be covering Panzer Division Tatra in another replay. But hopefully that gives you an idea of Task Force Butler and how they should be played, in a team game at least. I feel like they can be way more aggressive in like a 1v1 if you were to go Vanguard or Maverick or something like that, for sure. Yeah, I also wanted to show you this game because obviously we got to look at the new map, Kostritsa. So that's great. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.